What's going on, guys? So we're just sitting here talking about some of your guys' favorite movies of all time. So, um, if you could look at what, like, what movies, um, just a second, someone's phone is ringing. Anyway, uh, I think I listed a while back my top five. Um, my top five would have to be. Hey Eric, what's up? Man, my top five I think I listed was in my number one favorite movie of all time has to be The Green Mile. The Green Mile is just definitely my favorite movie of all time. Um, I would say it's probably one of, if not the greatest movie I've ever seen. There are a lot of movies I've seen that have been um, pretty close to it, but that movie just gets me every time. So, um, yeah, I haven't seen it in a while, but every time I see it, I cry. That movie just gets me. What's your favorite movie of all time, Eric? Um, yeah. Tie between Jaws and yeah, the great movies for sure. You know, I remember when I was a young kid and I saw Lion King for the first time. It fantastic movie, obviously, and I saw it so many times when I was a kid, and I played the game growing up, and as enraging as the game was growing up, I mean, it was still a fantastic game. So, I mean, I love The Lion King. I love Jaws. Jaws is a great movie for sure. Um, yep, definitely gotta mention Simba here. So, um, as I grew up, though, I fell more in love with the horror genre. Um, Obviously, I have some favorites in there. I just over time, I just like I got more like hyped up around horror. Jaws turns 50 years old. That's incredible that to think about that Jaws turns 50 years old this year. It's crazy to think about. But yeah, like I got so like involved in horror, um, the horror community over my life, and horror is my favorite genre of movie now. It used to be comedy, but and now it's just horror. I love horror. I have the Scout Taylor Compton autograph, and then I have the Matthew Lillard autograph from Scream. The horror community is definitely great. Yeah, I agree. There's so many iconic horror characters, lead females, killers. I mean, it's endless. I mean, you could go on and on and on. There's great movies, sequels. Terrifier movies are one of my favorites right now, and I can't wait till 2026 when the fourth movie comes out, and I believe that movie is going to be the last movie in the franchise, and I'm so excited for that one because we get to learn about Art's backstory more, which I have been begging for a movie that tells more about Art's backstory. So I've been begging for a Terrifier movie. What holiday do you think Terrifier will be selling? Honestly, I'm not sure what Damien Leone's going to do for Terrifier 4. All I know is that he said he's going to tell more about Art's backstory. I don't know what they're going to do for Terrifier 4, though, based on, like, holiday-wise. I honestly don't know. I think, like, it'd be funny if they did, like, Easter or Valentine's Day. That'd be funny. I'm not sure, though. Easter would be really weird, but it'd be pretty cool to see. It would be interesting. It'd probably get a lot of hate, but it would be interesting for sure. But I'd like to see it for sure. Let's see. Obviously, last year you had Smile 2. That movie scared the ever-loving hell out of me. We're smart to set Terrifier. Yeah, and man, that movie, Terrifier 3, I love that movie. Smile 2, I will say, is the first movie since the first Conjuring that had me scared to go to sleep. I did not want to sleep after watching that movie, at least the first night. I didn't want to sleep after the first night. That's awesome. That'd be a cool autograph to get for sure. I didn't know you got that, but that'd be an awesome autograph to get for sure. Just the amazing community that horror has is amazing too. I mean, you got David Howard Thornton has become a staple in the horror community now. Obviously, you got Michael Myers, you got Freddy Krueger, you got Jason Voorhees, you got Leatherface. So many more you could go on and on and on about, and it's just like David Howard Thornton's story is very inspiring for sure. And one fact I read is that the scene where he filmed in Terrifier 3 with the tube scene at the end with a rat and stuff like that, he actually got queasy at that point. And it's like, of all the scenes, David, that's the scene that really made you sick. And it's like, okay, interesting. But yeah, so that's the scene that made you sick. But yeah, and it's amazing. But he's one of my favorites right now to watch, especially as Art the Clown. So Art the Clown is probably one of my favorite killers right now. He's probably made it almost close to my top 5 now. So, I mean, the Terrifier movies are absolutely one of my favorites right now, just because of Art the Clown. So, David Howard Thornton has made that role one of my favorite killers of all time, basically. So, and it's not to say that I don't like the older killers like Michael Myers, and they've just made so many movies and stuff like that that it's gotten repetitive, and I've been wanting to look for something new and stuff like that. That's why I love Art the Clown so much. Are you and Travis still we're gonna try to start our podcast back up, yes. But we're gonna try to search for people to interview. So hopefully we can get him to interview, yes. We'd love to interview him, and yeah, so we're probably gonna get our podcast started up back this summer. after we get back from Disneyland, which is going to be another big vlog that we're going to be releasing on our channel. So be tuned in for that. It's going to be a big vlog. It's probably going to be in parts. I don't know when the parts are going to be up. It'll be after we get home and I edit them and stuff like that. But oh yeah, it's going to be fun at Disneyland. It's obviously going to be my first time, and Travis's and Morgan's first time. But my mom and dad have already been there, so. But I'm definitely excited. We're gonna have a lot of fun. So, but it's gonna be so fun, man. I'm excited, and especially the drive there. Driving there is gonna be especially fun because we get to have a lot of good family time and stuff like that. So, a lot of good family bonding time and stuff like that. We also, I believe, get to go to Universal, which will be pretty fun. Going to Universal will be pretty fun. I want to go to the Harry Potter part and make my own wand and stuff like that. I want to try butterbeer and stuff. So I hope we get to do that. I think we get to go to California Adventure Park too as well. So that's going to be fun. So as for movie wise, there's just so many good movies that come out and so many bad movies, but I feel like, you know, I look for those hidden gems, and a hidden gem that ended up being probably in my top 15 or 10 of all time is Everything Everywhere All at Once. Everything Everywhere All at Once ended up probably almost cracking my top 10, probably almost of all time, honestly. And which is crazy to think because it's a newer movie, but it was so great. Everything Everywhere All at Once was so great that I just can't get over how great that movie was. It was just fantastic. I just can't get over how good that movie was. Another movie I liked in recent years was Barbie. That movie was great. Really liked that movie. Again, for the people that watch this after the live stream, if you haven't seen The Substance, please watch The Substance. Demi Moore does a great acting job in that movie, and I wish she would have won Best Actress at the Oscars for that role. But she didn't. Mikey Madison won for Anora. But it's okay because Demi Moore, I still loved her performance in that. Not saying Mikey Madison didn't do a good job in Anora, because she did. She deserved that award, but Demi Moore I felt like deserved it more. But yeah, surprised me. I liked it. Yeah, I ended up liking Barbie way more than I thought I would. It was pretty funny too. It was really funny. And then there were some heartfelt moments, and I ended up liking it. I loved Oppenheimer. Again, that was a great movie. Oppenheimer was great. Obviously, great movie. But yeah, Barbie was one that I liked way more than I thought I would. Which isn't saying anything, but yeah. Another one that I loved that came out more recently was Free Guy. Free Guy, I love that movie. Ryan Reynolds. Love that movie. It was really funny. Again, heartfelt moments, but it was really funny. Amazing movie. It really, I loved it because it had the video game aspect. So love that. Let's see what other movies. I know some people didn't like the Dune movies, but I love those movies too. just the cinematography of those movies alone are what I love the most of Dune, because they're so like the cinematography and the visual effects are just great, and those movies are just fantastic, and the movies look good and stuff like that. Talking about visual effects, Oppenheimer using practical effects through like using no like computer effects throughout the entire movie is just amazing to me, because the director that directed the movie, he never uses computer effects, so which is crazy to me. So yeah, true, I get that, but yeah, Christopher Nolan, he doesn't use computer effects, so which is really interesting, but it works because his movies always turn out really, really great. Yeah, I get that, Eric. But his movies turn out really, really great, and which proves that you don't need fancy computers to edit a movie and stuff like that, or to do visual effects or anything like that. You don't need fancy computers or anything like that. So, um, but I believe that we rely too much on having a higher budget, thinking that having a higher budget for a movie automatically makes that movie is going to be great. Whereas you have movies all the time that have $5 or $10 million budgets that end up being like best movies of the year or best picture nominations, or hell, even best picture winners. Like, I don't know what the budget for Anora was. Let me look that up real quick. Anora budget. So yeah, Anora's budget was $6 million, and it just won Best Picture at the Oscars. So
I'm going to go get more good stuff.
Okay.
Take to the house and then
Okay. It just won Best Picture at the Oscars, and it only took $6 million to make. And you have movies like that are taking $2-3 million to make that don't even get nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars. It just shows that you don't need hundreds and hundreds of $1 millions to be nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars. You just need some money and cameras and editors and you just need some people to be able to make a movie for a certain amount of money. You don't need a huge budget to be able to make a movie, right? Use CGI on the Dark Knight Rise only for the Batwing. Yeah, and the thing is, I love Christopher Nolan for that reason, that he decides not to use CGI. I love that. I love the fact that he doesn't use CGI, and he is one of the directors that doesn't. And I believe that there's no. I believe who is the other director that doesn't do it? I believe it is Quentin Tarantino. I believe he doesn't either. And I love the fact that there are directors out there that don't do this. And I believe that there are directors that think it's best for their movies. And there are obviously movies out there that use CGI, where the CGI ends up ruining the movie. Like what they just did for Snow White, right? They used the CGI for the dwarves, and it turned out absolutely terrible. If they had used real people, it would have been absolutely much better. But they ended up using CGI for the dwarves, and it looks absolutely terrible. Like, those dwarves are absolutely scary. So I think that in some instances, CGI works if you do it the right way. But in my mind, sometimes CGI isn't the best in certain areas. So CGI doesn't work all the time. That's why I think practical effects or stuff like that, or non-CGI movies, can work in certain areas, and CGI can work in certain areas. So that's why I respect Christopher Nolan as a director so much, because he decides not to use CGI. Yeah, I would agree with that. Because like I would agree with that. I would definitely agree with that, Eric. because you see, like, if you have, like, and especially like those superhero movies, you're going to see CGI, right? You won't get around it. I mean, you won't really get around it because it's just how it is. Those superhero movies have CGI, and it's just how it is. But like in a movie like Dragon Ball Z Evolution, right, you're gonna have it, or Dragon Ball Z movie, or an anime movie, you're gonna have it. Superhero movies are gonna have it. Action movies are gonna have it. There's just some movies where you can't escape the use of CGI. But when you have a movie like Oppenheimer where you physically think it's impossible to do without CGI, and then Christopher Nolan did what he did to make that movie look and be how amazing as it was, makes it me think that those movies are possible without CGI. So, you know, I think it's possible to do any movie without CGI. I really do. I mean, to an extent, right? I think it's possible to do CGI to an extent. Maybe there's some instances where it's impossible to do something without CGI, yeah. But I think to an extent we can do, or some people can do, pretty much anything without CGI. I think practical effects can be done on anything. So that's why I respect Christopher Nolan so much. So, but that's why I like directors like Christopher Nolan and Quentin Tarantino and people like that, because they use the practical effects and stuff like that. So, that's why I like them so much. It's just that it's not to say that I don't like the other directors that absolutely use CGI, and the editors that use CGI, and cinematographers and stuff like that. I don't care if your movie uses CGI. It's that if the CGI works, then that's fine. But there's movies where the CGI obviously doesn't work. You use CGI over the top, right? There's instances where the CGI goes over the top, and then what happens? The movie's bad because of the CGI. I mean, there's movies I could think of hundreds of examples where like Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. I'm sorry, but the CGI blood just wasn't there. There's Friday the 13th movies where stuff was bad. And obviously we didn't have much CGI back then, but the Friday the 13th remake had CGI that was bad. There's horror movies all the time with CGI that's bad. There's action movies with CGI that's bad. I mean, you could go on and on about CGI movies, or movies with CGI that's bad, but I mean, it just it back to the point where you don't need hundreds, like 100 million. If I could get 100 million, if I could take a chance on $100 million movie or a $5 million movie, I'd take the chance on the $5 million movie any day, because I'd have a chance on a $5 million movie making $100 million $100 million, rather than $100 million movie only making 50 or 60, right? And then I lose a bunch of money. So it's just one of those things you kind of have to think about. It's just, I don't know. But yeah, so in my mind, I'd rather make a movie for 5 to 10 million rather than make a movie for 150 to 200, like, or 100 million. Like, obviously there's movies that work, like the Avengers movies or whatever. They make them for 200, 300 million dollars, and they end up making $1 billion or $2 billion. I get that, but they have popularity behind them. You have movies that come out that nobody really knows about, that are being made for $100 million, that end up making 150 to $200 million, but they don't make profit because you have to take into consideration marketing and stuff like that. You have to take into place marketing and blah 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 blah, and then they only make back their money, but they don't make profit. You see what I mean? And it's just crazy to think about that people would rather spend $100 million on a movie rather than spend $5 or $10 or $15 million on a movie and make a bunch of profit. And I get it. The equipment that they need to use is expensive. The people they need to pay is expensive. The actors they need to pay is expensive. I get it. The set production design is expensive. I get it. But you see all these movies, back to my point, where you have movies all the time made for $4, $5, $6, $10, $15 million that win Best Picture at the Oscars all the time. And you see none of these movies made for $100 million, $200 million being even nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars. It just blows my mind. So that goes in to prove the point that you can spend all this money on these movies all you want, but they're not going to be nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars. I miss Simba Snuggles too. I miss them too. But yeah, but I just wanted to do this little stream. So I'm going to end it here. Eric, thanks for joining. I'll probably do more of these little talks here and there, but I'll catch y'all later.